Well, those images that Rick showed and the other ones you'll see tonight just are so impressive. This astrophotography is, which really got going in the late 1890s, early 1900s. It was like a perfect marriage for astronomy and optics. It allows us to see so much dimmer objects that we can't see with our naked eye because it's the sensors and cameras are just more light sensitive. And when you see some of these things, you say, why did we spend $18 billion sending up the James Webb when we have people in Gloucester and Beverly taking these great shots? But it's all money down the drain. But there's a little history to this. So, like I say, around 1900, they perfected imaging well enough that they could do better than they could with their naked eye observation. But there's a long history. So that's about 125 years we've been doing astro imaging. But there's another 300 years before that where people were doing the same, kind of what you might say the old-fashioned way. Just to make the point, here's a astro image with a camera of the triangular galaxy, and
just enter should do it.
yeah, should. And this is a free astro imaging. This is what you can see optically through a telescope. This is the Crab Nebula. There's so much more you could see. But like I said, people didn't have this before. So we go back to the first guy that did imaging, Galileo, and he started with a telescope that was worse than any cheap piece of junk you could buy at Target. And yet he created this really nice images of the moon. This is all kind of new to people. He's also a nice artist, his renderings. And he did this for the same reason that modern astronomers use photographic methods, is to record what they see and share it with others. Because just looking through the telescope, you know, what are you going to do? You can't share it with anyone. You have to make an image, which is what he did. Oh, man.
Get an arrow.
Yeah, I'm hitting arrows. Anything that looks like an arrow, I'm hitting it.
That's the problem. It's the download.
There we go. Is Dick talking? I'm not hearing anything. Dick is muted.
Sketching, even up to, here's our fellow New Englander, Percival Lowell, with his sketches of what he thought were canals on the planet Mars. So just maybe because I'm cheap, I don't want to invest all this stuff in equipment. You know, it's pretty expensive, right? And there's a huge learning curve to know how to do this well. So I went to the old-fashioned way, which Galileo started, which is using just common sketching tools. And you can get into this for about 50 bucks, right? You got yourself a clipboard, a little light, a little red light, some pencils, some nice erasers, a compass, pencil sharpener, that's it. That's all you need. And you can get started, and I started out doing, in equipment, you don't need a lot. I mean, spotting scope or in my case, the finder scope on my big telescope, 10 power. I was able to see the moon in nice detail, make these sketches. It was a lot of fun. You know, doing it every time you saw a different phase. And then I started looking at, in more detail, at higher magnifications at the moon. You know, the moon, I know there are people here that don't like the moon. But you know, you can't fight it, join it. Get on board. The moon has more details than you can see of anything in the sky. And it's all, and every night it changes as the angle of the sun changes, these features. So you never run out of things to see. Now this one, my method was starting, this is one of the first ones I did. I just took some graphite from a pencil and smeared it on a piece of white paper. And then drew in some of the details. And then I took an eraser and you see the light areas that show where the sunlight is hitting the tops of the cliffs and the edges of the craters. I just removed the graphite with a pencil to get that. And there's so much detail. Sometimes I think I've got it done. And then next month I go back and look at this through the telescope. I said, I missed about 13 craters. There's just so much detail on the moon. Just crater Plato, I like this one in particular. And I tried this method. Some sketchers use this. Here I took a piece of black paper and I took some white chalk and I smeared it in the area of interest. This is the straight wall, or what do they call it? What's the name? Remo recta or something like that. So I smeared it with some white chalk and took a charcoal pencil and filled in the black where the deep craters are, and used a white pastel pencil to do the areas that were highlighted by sunlight. That worked out pretty well. And somebody that knows this, I was showing it to him, I thought he was doing a great job. He says, oh, you missed there's a crater right over here. It's pretty big. You missed that one. Unfortunately, you can go back and watch it out. And anyway, most people wouldn't notice it anyway. So here's another one with that method. Copernicus. Crater Julius Caesar. This one, I found some paper, that gray paper, that's pretty much what the mare areas of the moon, that's the kind of color you see. And I just used again, a charcoal black pencil with the dark spots and a white pastel pencil to do the sunlit areas. And then now down in the lower left corner is a rill, which is a wide cleft. I don't know if you ever noticed that if you look at a map of the moon, all the craters and features are named after philosophers, mathematicians, scientists, astronomers. So Julius Caesar, how did he get in there? Yeah. So I looked it up today, and some Italian astronomer from the 19th century said, hey, Julius Caesar, he introduced the Julian calendar, a great reform in keeping time. So that's how he got out of there.
This is not big corporations.
Now, little stuff with the planets. Mars is always hard to do, it's so small, and if there's any turbulence in the atmosphere, it's not so good. This was from the last time it was really close to us, 2020. But here still you can see that there's the polar ice cap on the top. And it's the top most image. You could see a lot of nice detail. I can't remember what that's called, that particular formation.
Certus Major.
There it is.
Or that gray splotch.
The only one, no.
So I got some good optical or eyeball views of it. I didn't do any sketches this winter. You know, back in January, mid-January, it was in opposition. Got good views, but in mid-January, do I want to stand out there with a clipboard for an hour and a half?
No.
5? Okay. The way I got started was I took other people's sketches. I said, that's what it'll look like through my telescope. And I practiced indoors in a comfortable chair, seeing if I could replicate that. It's a good way to start. Kind of learn the techniques, not standing out in the cold for half an hour at a time. Here's one everybody knows, the double cluster, just white paper, just marking it up with a pencil. But you can process this stuff. There's a free program called GIMP. It's kind of like, what is it, Photoshop, but it's free. And you scan that into that, and you reverse whites to blacks and blacks to white, and you can do some other manipulations so that it looks like you're looking through the eyepiece. And that kind of hazy area around the two brighter stars, you know, there's so many stars in the double cluster. You could sit there just going like that all afternoon. I took some graphite on the white paper and I just put a little haze around there. It kind of replicates what you'd see through the eyepiece. Here's another one with a passing comet and a star cluster. As I've gotten into this more and more, I often try to do an image where there's more than one object in the field of interest. So this way we have a comet and a star cluster. I think most of you know this one, the Western Veil. Here sketched, I had an oxygen 3 filter, kind of low magnification. Oops. Too far. So there it is after I processed it with GIMP, kind of like that one.
Nice.
Okay, we're getting to the end. What do I ask? Can do galaxies. This is M101. Usual method is you draw with a compass a circle and you do a clock face around it. Those won't be in the final image, but it allows you to kind of position the brighter stars in the right positions. Those numbers kind of help you. And then you fill in the smaller stars as well as you can, and then you start working on the object of interest. What I did with this one, in the lower right, I smeared some graphite with a pencil and then took a Q-tip and smeared some of that on that and just kind of worked it around till I got the right image I wanted to, and then took a sharp eraser and took away some of the graphite that was in the wrong spots, so that when I processed it, in GIF, I ended up with this.
Nice.
I think that's one of my better ones. In fact, it might be my only better one. That's it. I think this is the last one. So again, last January, Vesta was forecasted to make a trip through the constellation Taurus. So I went ahead on Sky Safari, put it in the right dates to see when that would happen. And then I looked at the spot I wanted to one night, And they filled in all the stars that would be in the image. This was before Vesta showed up. The top blue one is Zeta Tauri, a nice bright star. And then down in the bottom, that smear is the Crab Nebula, M1. It's part of my strategy. I have a couple things going on in a picture of interest. And then on 4 successive nights when we had clear skies, I marked where I saw Vesta. Those I put in red so I could differentiate them from the background stars. Otherwise, it looks just like a star.
And
So you
Dick, what's
can-
Vesta?
Pardon me?
What's Vesta?
Oh, I'm sorry. Vesta is the second largest asteroid in the asteroid belt. I think there's about 8 magnitude or something when it came through. Yeah, so you can see that those 4 things are positions on those various nights. And this one in between the nine. Yeah, clouds, the cloudy night. There's another one. One thing I recommend, especially about if you do this, what it'll do for you, it'll make you a better observer. If some of you probably do oils or watercolors, landscapes, etc. If you have to draw something or paint something, you have to really look at the details. Yeah, I think most of us, we're used to looking at something in the sky, dry, we say, oh, that's cool. Yeah, I like that. Going into the next one. But if you have to draw it, you have to really look at it in a different kind of way. So that's all you need. $50, telescope, you're all set. I should say, if you do it, if you have a telescope that will track, that can be a big advantage. So you're not always doing something and then having to move it back, recentering all the time. But I've had fun with it. So if you're interested, there are tutorials online. Just Google for astronomy sketching. It'll take you through it, or talk to me and I'll try to get you started. Thank you.
All right, thank you.